Okay, welcome to another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Dai-Shihan here from Warrior Concepts here in East Central Pennsylvania. So if you're in the Central Susquehanna Valley area, anywhere between Harrisburg, which is our state capital, all the way up to Williamsport, anything in that corridor kind of thing, or close enough for you to drive. I've got students who come down from Syracuse, New York, and in from all kinds of places. So either way, right? Come in, join us for training. Either way, all right, this is our strategy and tactics training for the week, right? And again, this kind of comes off of this week's podcast, our Kuden podcast that we had just this past Monday, right? All right, so anyway, what I want to talk about during this training, again, no dancing monkey, right? That's for other training. We're going to be taking a look at evolving Tai-Sabaki. The theme for this week is evolution, right? Not revolution, evolution, right? To evolve, right? To progress, but see, evolution requires change. And had a couple of students talk to me. There were some comments during the podcast, and there were some conversations that happened after the podcast, because what we were talking about was evolving even beyond the structure of the art, or the structure of the system, right? Hasumi Sensei, our grandmaster up there in age, latest letter he had written to the membership of the Bujinkan was, in part, what's next for him? Well, he's waiting to die, right? He understands. He's in a nursing home, he's wheelchair bound for the most part, those kind of things, right? But he's also said that he expects the Bujinkan to die with him, and that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of folks, but that actually comes from a master teacher who understands the natural evolution of things, right? The nature of things. Some people have already split from things. Other people haven't split from it formally, but in the way they operate, the way they do things, yeah, right? But they still have that safety net of being a part of, right? But that's not what I was talking about. What I was talking about was what comes next, right? One of the things that I discussed during the podcast was a natural progression, right? From Sengoku Jidai, Warring States period, where a lot of this stuff was developed, and even before that, right? Where the battlefield was the battlefield, literally, right? There were bandits on the road, all that kind of stuff, right? But here in today's world, right, coming up through Edo and Meiji and all those kind of things, and here we are in the U.S. or U.K. or wherever you happen to live in the world, right? I know there's still crime, and I know there's still the possibility of us being attacked and needing physical self-defense. But the reality of today's world is that the primary battlefield, the place where we need our skills every day, is here and here, right? Our head and our heart, right? Everything from people gaslighting and manipulating to political bullshit to marketing and sales messages and family members trying to play the whole friendship love card kind of thing. If you didn't really love me, or if you really loved me, you would, all those kind of things, right? So, but I think what I was talking about was, there's this need for an evolution into people taking strategy, tactics, principles and concepts and whatnot into the new battlefield, right? And I get it. I get the allure of everything being physical. I get it, right? I mean, we're martial artists, and if shit comes in our direction, we want to be able to take care of it. Get it, right? But what ends up happening very often is people get so caught up in that, and then they're not able to translate the lessons to something else. But anyway, to pull back a little bit so that people are clear that I'm not trying to do the breakaway thing or anything like that. It's just, right, I'm kind of approaching the intermediate and advanced level students that know that there's something missing, right? There's stress and all kinds of shit going on in their lives on a regular basis, but they live in a society or a culture that is just laden with laws where we can't teach somebody a lesson who needs it, but there's nothing to stop them from running the mouth or manipulating and all that kind of shit, in a way where they can undermine us, cancel culture, all that kind of shit, right? To break us down. But days gone by, well, disrespect would have been met with something very, very different. But that's not the world we live in. But we're going to roll this back a little bit. I'm going to take a look at Tai-Sabaki, one of the most core elements of our training, right? From the physical aspect. But I also want to make sure that we see that all the physical models, every technique, every skill, every base level thing like this is a physical example of things that we can do in a psychological, emotional, spiritual warfare context, right? Because it's all about conflict resolution, right? And understanding, right? It goes way past knowing the moves, okay? All right, so again, during this training session, we're exploring one of the most fundamental yet most misunderstood elements of our training, Tai-Sabaki, right? So Tai-Sabaki, break it down here very, very quickly, right? Tai, like in Taijutsu, Tai-Hen, Tai-Jitsu, those kind of things, right? Tai is body, right? Not the same as Do, right? Because we have Do-Gaish, we have Do-Jime, those kind of things, right? If you look things up in a cheap dictionary or in a quick search online, Do could be translated as body as well, but Do is torso, right? That part of the body, okay? And then Sabaki is a conjugation of the Japanese verb sabaku, right? Sabaku, which means to manage, to coordinate, right? Those kind of things, right? So Sabaki in this case, right, is management. Right? I know simplified translations, right? No, Sensei, Tai-Sabaki. I was told that Tai-Sabaki means body movement. It's not body movement. Okay, but the body's made up of a whole bunch of different parts, right? During this Friday's masterclass, we're going to hone this down even farther because we could be looking at anything, right? We could be looking at ude, right, the arms, or in the Gyokoryu, it's called shuho, right, hand, and by implication the arm. How to use that? How is it strong? Those kind of things, right? But we're going to focus on ashi, right, the legs and the feet. So people call that footwork. Well, sometimes Tai-Sabaki is called footwork as well. Okay. Technically, more literally, to help us with better understanding, right? Managing the legs, ashi sabaki. Okay. If everything is just lumped into a big, crude translation, then that becomes our target. Okay. But Tai-Sabaki, right, it's broken down into things like mai, right, distance, naname, angling. Kamai is in there as far as like alignment with my body parts to his body parts, those kind of things, right? So I'm going to focus on this from the concept of body management, but I want to take this farther, right? I want to take a look at this from the perspective of evolution, right? So again, we're not just talking about footwork, we're not just talking about posture, we're talking about how the body, mind, and awareness evolve together. The body does nothing without the mind. Okay? And awareness, what we're paying attention to, dictates the mind, what and how we think about things, how clear we are about it, right? And then that translates into body activity, regardless of whether it's the body itself or the mouth moving because we're communicating and forming words and those kind of things, right? So it's more deep, right? One of the teachers that I work with is one of the seniors under Ishizuka Sensei. Even Ishizuka Sensei reminded us as well, right? That ego wants to make this as easy as possible, right? If we can get to understanding quickly, if we can get to skill quickly and whatnot, then, cool. And I get it. But in the realm of understanding, one of the first things that we need to understand is that this isn't easy. It's difficult. Understanding is difficult, right? Learning how to, and not just learning how to coordinate things and learning the moves and the techniques, but understanding that learning isn't enough. I have to do repetition and things like that to the point where these things get so ingrained in muscle memory that I blow right past getting it right to the point where I can't get it wrong. It becomes the new way of moving. It becomes the new way of thinking. It becomes the new way of being. Until that happens, stress, anything like that, surprise, right, can it's like building everything, like building a house out of cards, right, or playing Jenga, right. The wrong thing gets affected, the whole damn thing comes crumbling down. All right. So again, as one of my teachers reminded us, the body postures of taijutsu are more than utilitarian stances, right, or formal ways of positioning the trunk, the limbs, the legs, those kind of things, right? The kamae of ninjutsu can be best described, and this is a Hatsumi Sensei lesson, right? The kamae of ninjutsu can be best described as the physical embodiment of the mental outlook. It's not just a pose to take up. Okay. All right. So again, in Kuden this week, for those of you just signing on, we explored how the art itself evolves. Right. Not by changing its form, but by deepening our understanding of why it exists and why those forms are there in the first place. Okay. Tai-Sabaki, body management, is the perfect mirror for that principle, I think. Right. Again. So, and the reason for that is because how we move reflects how we think, right? I've discussed that. How we think reflects how we perceive things, our perceptions, right? Our beliefs. How clear that perception is compared to what's actually going on in and around us determines everything, okay? I call it BS, right? And BS can mean one of two things, okay? It can mean bullshit or it can mean our belief system. Okay? The question about whether or not our belief system is bullshit or it's actually based on clarity, also known as wisdom or enlightenment, it's not a fine line. It's a chasm. Okay? That's why we go to master teachers. Right? So as the body evolves, so must the mindset and the awareness, right? The zanshin that directs it. Okay? All right. So stay with me to the end here. There's a bunch to this, right? So I'm going to go back to this traditional training model, right? The shuhari. The lesson's not about shuhari, but we're going to use that as a framework to walk through the evolution of our skill proficiency from beginner level through the intermediate stages into the advanced realms if the focus is on mastery. If the focus is just on learning some tricks and having a belt and being able to show off to friends, then that's a completely different thing. And the rest of this training, not going to matter, right? Except for maybe, I don't know, interest and for those folks who are, they like to memorize things like this so that they can regurgitate it, right? Done. It looks like throwing up. So it sounds like it knows, right? It's a huge game that ego plays, right? We're all prone to it. The trick is in keeping ourselves in check, right? But shuhari, right? So these are developmental levels. Historically, shu literally means copy or preserve. So in the beginning, your job is to copy the teacher's technique, demonstration, movement, and get as close to that as possible. No henka, no variation. Fix things so that you can do that, right? Even if there's somewhere along the path, well, how would you know, right? Copy them, okay? And then we start to break things, we start to explore, we start to experiment, those kind of things to find the why, right? And then we get to a point where we can actually transcend the models, the forms, the system, because we don't need it anymore. We're a walking, talking, living example of, right? So I want you to, we're going to keep referring back to this. As a matter of fact, it's a big key part in these things over here, right? But another way to look at this, well, we'll get to that in a minute, right? We'll do it now. So let's consider shuhari as a 3-step, they're big giant steps, but 3 steps or 3 floors in a building, right? And so shuhari, right, from one perspective, but we could also look at this as body, mind, and awareness. Okay, Well, Sensei, isn't awareness in the mind? Awareness is in the mind in the same way that sight is in the eyeball. It's not. The eyeball is the sensory receptor. There's a nerve channel that goes to the brain that actually goes to two centers in the brain. It's the only sense receptor that has that. Goes to the brain, processes the image, names it, identifies it, those kind of things, and then, right, just like the ears, that everything, right, then triggers some system, right? If it looks safe, then we're good. It triggers a certain type of response and signal. If it looks dangerous or it's distasteful or I want to get away from it, right, it triggers the amygdala. The amygdala fires a signal over the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus triggers a bunch of glands that drop epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, all kinds of shit into the system. The entire state change. I have weird habits or weird hobbies, right? So, Shuhadi, body mind awareness, or we could also say form, strategy, right? And relationship. Yes, boys and girls, a fight is a relationship. Not all relationships are positive, okay? But the better able we are to connect with the opposing force, we get different skills. We get different abilities, right? So again, we'll walk through each phase from the evolution of skill proficiency perspective, right? Not only what you move, but how, right? And how you think, what you perceive, and how you relate during that movement. Okay, what I said earlier. Okay, it's not easy. Okay, mastery is not easy. Learning a couple of things and getting decent at replicating them when we're in control, not the same as being able to replicate it under pressure when your left brain goes, fuck it, it takes a little vacation until the problem has been resolved, and then it decides to come back. All right. And yes, there is a built-in warning. Okay. So if you stay fixed in any one of these stages, except for this one, but there's still a warning, right? We stay fixed or we get trapped by a certain mindset or certain influential factors, we'll call them. We could really get stuck. If we get stuck in the earlier stages, we'll end up carrying rank without mastery. Okay? People need to understand there's a difference between rank and the belt around somebody's waist. And I know we can all regurgitate Hatsumi Sensei's words, but having heard it, learning it, knowing it, and understanding it are not, they're not the same. Okay? All right. So let's look at this. All right. But before we do that, don't forget, my guys keep reminding me, right? Sensei, don't stop forgetting, right? If you're getting value out of these things, or if you have friends or whatever that could get value out of training at this depth, then be sure to like, share. If you're over on YouTube, right, or any of the other platforms that do this, subscribe. That way, right, it helps us out because it helps us get this stuff to more people. It helps you out because the algorithm then tags you as being interested in stuff like this, and you'll get more, not just from us, but from anybody else, any other high-level teacher that's teaching stuff at this level, right, or at this depth. And it also helps the other folks that are actually looking for this stuff. Okay. All right. So let's do this. We're going to take a walk down, not memory lane. We're going to take a walk down skill proficiency lane through. We're going to start at the beginner level, right? See how I marked the shu, right? We're going to pass through the intermediate stages, ha, and then we're going to end up here in the advanced stages for D, right? So beginner stage, right? In this early phase, Tai-Sabaki means do it like we do it here, okay? The job of the student, again, is to copy, right? Copy the steps exactly, copy the posture precisely, follow the pattern, okay? It comes across very style-oriented, right? And some of you, if you've been on the podcast or you're one of my personal students or whatever, over the years, you have heard me say things like people's focus has narrowed so much, right? And ignored so much of Hatsumi Sensei's lessons that this art has become just another martial arts choice among martial arts choices. And it's because people get stuck at a certain level, right? Get stuck at a certain level. I don't care what the belt color is. I don't care what the belt rank or the number behind it is. That's not what we're talking about. Okay. So, but at this level, and Hatsumi Sensei's even mentioned, right? There's a lot of people walking around with high level black belts that have a beginner's mind. And he's not talking about the beginner's mind as in Mushin. He's talking about they still think about everything pretty much like a beginner does. Okay. So we have to be careful, right? So again, if we're talking about the body, right, we've got really big, clear steps, right? Visible transitions, right? Everybody can see them. Well, everybody can see them, then so can the bad guy. I know, but we're not ready for a bad guy yet. Okay? This is the learning stage. Just like the elementary school student who has barely learned how to read and write simple words and connect simple sentences is not ready to write a high school or college research paper or dissertation. Okay? We have to understand. I understand where ego wants to be. Okay, but again, we have to keep that little bastard in check. Okay, so the mind, right? So if we're looking at, I'll fill these things in here in just a minute, right? But again, the body, real big, real clear steps, right? It's you know immediately if you're making a mistake. You know immediately whether you got it right or wrong. Okay, the mind, right, is analytical, left brain oriented. Okay, checking. Right? Did I do it right? And then the awareness is forward focus, right? It's reactive to the attacker or the technique, right? It's always thinking about the next move he might do, next move that I have to do as far as the technique goes, that kind of thing, okay? As Hatsumi Sensei once said, learning a technique is not an end in itself. It merely indicates where you need to start, okay? Talk about the warnings of like jumping over certain things because like I want to move like him, ignoring the fact that he went through the whole process to get where he is. Okay? So there's a transitional kind of a new pain point that pops up because there's something that we wanted to get a handle on. We might not have called it a pain point, but like not knowing how to defend myself. Seeing all this shit going on in the world or watching a fight and like I could do high school fights, but shit, I better learn something better. Or I got involved in other martial arts and whatnot, and like if the guy was bigger, stronger, faster, whatever, that's not going to work for self-defense because then I have to hope that I'm the bigger army or whatever the pain point was that brought us in. Or for some people, it's low self-esteem and lack of confidence. So they get involved in martial arts so they can feel bigger. They can feel more adept. They don't necessarily need to be more adept. I've had people quit first belt level, second belt level in. They were talking about self-defense and all that, and second belt level in the quitting process. And I go, what happened? Last week you were like all in. And they're like, I think I have everything I need to be able to defend myself. I feel pretty confident now. So he lied coming in the door. I want to learn how to protect myself because there's some people out there doing some wild, crazy stuff. But as soon as the confidence went up, that was really based on what? Quarter to half speed movement and evasion and a couple of tricky techniques and whatnot, right? Confidence soars. That's really, see, that was the unspoken elephant in the room. And now they're gone. Right? So instructors need to be able to see more than just like who needs what technique for what belt rank. Okay? All right. So the danger is that many students, and here's the cautionary warning, the danger is that many students and even instructors never leave this phase. Okay? They confuse style with substance. Okay? That's not, it's not us, right? It's not you guys. You get everybody's already enlightened, right? So we're all good. Okay. But what ends up happening is, and this is the way it looks, right? They keep perfecting how the kata looks, um, how the skills are used when they're sparring, that kind of stuff. How many wins, how many losses, those kind of things, right? But they never explore what that technique does, right? They learn it, and then when they're sparring, they do what everybody else does, right? They strip everything away, and they kind of gravitate toward one or two favorite punches, one or two favorite kicks, maybe a grab, lock, whatever, a couple of tricks here or there, and the rest of it, like the other 98%, just kind of goes down the toilet. Right? Ends up just being a waste of time, effort, and money. But it's not about, like in Ninjutsu, we do it, or in Bujinkan, we do it like, and over there, see, that's an either or thing. Okay? Because if we understand substance and that's what we're pursuing, then we understand. If we get grabbed by somebody that's been in judo for a while, right? Okay? Like Nagato Sensei was a judo champion, right? Was a national judo champion. Ishizuki Sensei, high school, was a high school level judo champion. Both got injured. Both just happened to, by kismet, right, go to Hatsumi Sensei's clinic, and like it wasn't like he wasn't the only guy there. He owned the clinic, but he was also the top doctor, and then there were these other doctors that people could have seen. What's the luck that these two guys, college level and high school level, get injured and end up not only in that clinic, but seeing the same doctor? Okay, and they both have the same story, right? Procrastinated for a while, finally decided to go to one of these classes that this doctor invited them to, right? Just to see what the hell's up. And what they saw, because remember, they were really good. And this guy was like twice their age, so they should have been able to, right? And like wipe the floor with them. And apparently with no effort. And they never went back. Not to his dojo, they never went back to what they were doing before. Okay, so, but again, this continuing to focus on what it looks like in these big lessons, right? That creates a ceiling, right? Wherever we are, whatever we think is going on, creates a natural ceiling, right? And so, but the ceiling, it doesn't create that not because they lack rank, but because they've stopped evolving. Okay, what they're thinking about doing is just getting the technique better and better and better, but they themselves haven't shifted perspective. They haven't changed. Okay, talk about this in a bit with me watching over 40 years watching Hatsumi Sensei evolve and what that looks like. Okay, when your loyalty is to the official form, or I'm going to drop this too because this is not going to sit comfortably with some people, or to the organization, or to the system, and not to what that's supposed to be guiding you toward. Because when I first got involved in this martial art, 5th Dan was the highest rank. And at 5th Dan, Shidoshi were not just charged with teaching students the fundamentals so they could understand what Hatsumi Sensei was doing. They were also then licensed to start their own organization and their own thing. That was the natural progression. Right? Because you will have then owned the art, and it would be an expression of your perspective. All the principles and concepts are there. All the strategies and tactics are there. All the techniques are there. But what's your focus? Just like the Japanese master teachers who are Soke now, or they're Dai-Shihan or whatever, right? Go to their classes. Some are heavy on balance. Some are heavy on precision. Right? It's the same taijutsu, but it's personalized. Okay, but people are terrified. We'll talk about that when we get down here. What keeps people from fully engaging here, or being worried, or whatever. Okay, evolution doesn't mean that you're leaving things behind. Right? You can't leave your foundation behind. What you can leave behind are the training wheels that were on the bike, so that you can actually fucking ride a 2-wheel bike. So this process is like having a bike loaded with training wheels, and systematically they're coming off. But the training wheels don't belong to the system outside of allowing you to not fall over in certain directions while you're getting a handle on the skills that matter: steering, pedaling, timing, braking, balance control, while steering at different speeds. That's the substance, right? So, again, if you cling to style, right, thinking the form itself is the goal, right, the system becomes a cage. Okay? It becomes a trap. Okay? So rank may climb, technique may polish, but our perception and awareness remain stuck. Okay? So the art doesn't evolve through imitation alone, right? And neither do you, right? I don't, you don't, okay? It evolves through understanding the why behind the pattern, okay? So as a suggestion, after every class, right, reflect on one step. I ask students at the end of every class, what'd you learn? Okay? They tell me, but here's the next natural extension. Don't leave it at that, right? Afterwards, ask yourself, where does this go? Why does this go here? Right? Again, we're still at this level here. Why does this go here? Right? What problem does this move or this entire technique solve? Right? What advantage or advantages does it give me? Right? This is what builds the seed of understanding, not just rote repetition. Okay? So if we're looking at this, right, we can break this down into body. What do I have over here? I just want to keep it in the same order. Body, mind, Zanshin, which is awareness, right? Everybody knows that, right? And if not, a quick Google search will figure it out, right? There's a pain point. Okay, what's the pain point? Right? And let's see. Sorry, I got 7 pages of notes for you guys. And then goal. Okay, the goal of the training in these levels. Right? So from the body perspective, it's to copy correct form. Right? Copy correct form. Right? From the mind perspective, a lot of people in Ninjutsu, a lot of people in martial arts don't like this word, but it's what it is, right? It's obedience. Right? If things continue to not work, perhaps we should do what Sensei told us to do the first time. Okay? But the obedience is in doing it and staying disciplined to do it so we can understand the structure. We understand the why of what that does for me, right? From a Zanshin perspective, from like awareness, okay, it's reactive, right? This is forward focused. What's the next step? What's the next move, right? And every beginner, right, wants the ending that the teacher created in the demonstration. And so everything they're doing is trying to force that to happen instead of at each move, watching that strike come in, delivering the yuki and the gash, feeling the pressure and what they're reading from his body with that contact, earning each move. Okay? They're just focused on getting that, right? And that's where the frustration comes from. Okay? The pain point here, this is where the problem comes in, right? When we get stuck in style worship. Again, some of these things are going to push the wrong buttons on some people, but truth doesn't taste good, right? So it's style worship, right? And style worship equals arrested development. And no, not the old TV show. I think there was one called that. I don't watch that. I don't watch those. Like the most popular sitcoms and things like that, because the most popular sitcoms are popular because the greatest number of people can relate to that, can associate with that. Married with Children, the Simpsons thing, Bart Simpson, and all that kind of stuff, right? That just screams of average and mediocre. Okay, I try to watch those kind of things, and it's physically painful because these people have accepted mediocrity or just this is their life. Okay? That's not what this art's about, right? So, and then the goal, what's the goal here, right? The goal is to build identity, to build discipline, to build curiosity. Okay? So it's to build. Okay? To build identity, to build, what else did I say? To build, discipline, and to build curiosity. A good teacher will always forward pace because these people, the Zanshin, is forward focused. So a good teacher doesn't try to throw advanced shit at the student and confuse them. They work the basics and then highlight that by going, when you get this, you will be able to do dun, 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 dun. Or if they're demonstrating a technique for upper, intermediate, or advanced level students, they'll go, okay, you guys, you're going to work parts 1 and 2 to really get good at this, because if you're going to be able to do this, this is critical. So they forward pace them so the person wants to do what they're told. They want to copy the form and get it right, right? They want to, right? They want to apply that discipline, right? Because they want that result, right? So no showing off, none of that shit, right? Okay, so let's move into the intermediate phase. For those of you who are leaving comments and whatnot, I don't even see the chat function at the moment. I will respond to those things later. Okay, and actually during our Friday call, right? Our Friday master class, this Tai-Sabaki evolution master class that we're doing. We're gonna take a technique, right? Focusing with the legs, and walk it through these so everybody can see what that development would look like, right? This kind of springboards off what we just did for our annual fall camp, where we took a technique, which was just an evasion off of an incoming punch, kick, or stab, and looked at how, like, the kind of distance and rigidity and things that a beginner would have, and then what that distance looks like for an intermediate person, right? A little bit more relaxed, that kind of thing. What it looks like for a lower level advanced person, and then what that looks like higher and higher, and then we tied that into a formal kata so that people could understand that if we're here or here or here, that's going to be, even duplicating the kata is going to be difficult in real time under pressure. Okay. All right. So let's move to the intermediate phase. Okay. So intermediate phase, this right? This is related to that exploration kind of thing, right? So here movement is about conformity, right? Here, movement is about strategy. Okay. So now we shift from copying to positioning, and not just like, well, didn't we position here? Yeah, because we were told to. Right. This is the style. This is the way we do it. Right. What I'm talking about here is the steps get smaller, the angles get more subtle. The why becomes the how. Right. When I know why I'm doing this to control this bubble, I automatically know how. People here are being told the how, but they want to know the why. You know what the Japanese master teachers say? Doesn't matter. You can't do it anyway. At this stage, why only appeases ego, and as long as it makes sense and it sounds like some cool shit that I want to be able to do, then the average person will do it, right? At this stage, people separate their skills and techniques based on, I like that, or I'm good at that, and I don't like that, or I suck at that. So guess what gets more practice? The shit they can already do well. Guess what doesn't get practice? The stuff they don't like. Okay? But what they never consider is they better hope that any attacker allows them to use these skills. But the reality is that the closer to us that attacker is in relationship, right? Friend, family, somebody who's watched us fight before, whatever, right? If they're strategic, if they're smart, they're going to force us to do this shit over here, which we're going to suck at. Okay? So we have to be careful, right? So again, the why becomes the how, right? So now if we're talking about these different stages, right? The body, right? Now we're looking at focusing on efficiency. We're looking at focusing on adaptability, right? Not hard, fast angles, right? At this stage here, we talk about naname, angling, right? The answer to students here is 30 to 45 degrees, okay? Or we just started white belt off going, okay, we're going to move 45 degrees, okay? Because it's easy for them to hold on to. When we start moving here, the lesson for naname, for our Tai-Sabaki is it's not 30 degrees. It's not 45 degrees. It's not 10 degrees. It's not 90 degrees. It's angled to the line of the attack while remaining flat or profiled or covered to the attacker themselves. Right? It's moving in a way that simultaneously evades the incoming strike, closes off all of my targets, opens up all of his, positions me too far away for an easy shot. He has to work harder, but positions me close enough that I don't have to work as much. All at the same time in one move. Okay? It's not the same. This is way easier, which is why most people gravitate to here and just get better and better and better at doing it like this. This here, it's all about me, right? How I do the move, how I do the form, how I do the technique. Here, it has to be about him because every attacker is different. Even if they both throw, or all 10 of them throw hook punches, their height, their girth, their flexibility, their fight style, the position of that elbow relative to things, right, is going to dictate how small or big that hook is. They're not all the same, right? At this level, this person wants to know how do you defend against a hook punch, and they want a concrete answer. Here, right, we start to irritate people. How you defend against a hook punch? Okay. Define the hook punch. Is it a lead hook? Is it a hook coming from the rear? Right? What's the alignment of our bodies? Right? Is it a tight hook? Right? Like a boxer's like hooking jab kind of thing, or is it this big flailing kind of thing? Right? Well, it's a hook punch. No. What kind? Okay. Where are we? Okay. Environmentally, where are we? Do I have a lot of space? Are we between parked cars? Okay. Where are we? Where am I based on social or rule structure? Because what I can do and get away with and still keep my job in the workplace or as a cop or whatever is going to be very, very different than if they're in my house and there are no witnesses. Okay. Or if they're video cameras or, okay. It's very different, right? And then why is he punching me? The hell, right? Because he doesn't like you. Okay, well, that's very different from he's had it out for me or somebody told him that, right? Or it's an opportunistic mugger. See? It's not easy. Okay? Everybody starts with the kata like Scotty beamed you both into position and then the uke punches. No. Did this guy get out of bed that morning? Whatever, or did he encounter you on the street? True story, happened to me. Encounter you on the street, takes a look at how you walk and carry yourself and your posture, makes an assumption, and then attacks you because of the way you walk. True story. Okay? Associated that with military, not that I wasn't military at the time, associated with that with military, that then triggered this belief that military equals baby killer equals, right, and attacked me because of that. The irony was that the military didn't teach me how to walk. The Bujinkan taught me how to walk. The way that he got triggered by it. Because I wasn't walking like Soldier Boy. Right? But, so it's, why? Because it matters. It matters how much I have to do to get this guy to stop. To de-escalate, okay? All right, so again, the body, efficient, adaptive, the mind begins integrating analysis and intuition, okay? Awareness expands, right? Again, I just mentioned this with the stories. You include distance, rhythm, and even the environment, right? So your foot placement now affects the opponent's balance and options, not just because that's what you are doing. Okay. Nagato Sensei, one of the masters in our art, put it simply, right? In a fight, everything must be natural, right? Your taijutsu must be subconscious because fighting is all subconscious. Okay. So this is where Kurai Dori, right, catching the space, catching the moment, begins to emerge. Right, not just distance from the opponent, but distance from furniture, from obstacles, from your own striking geometry relative to him. Right, how things line up. You start saying, if the chair is there, I'll step over or around it. Right, that's going to dictate things this way. Right, if his leading shoulder is here, right, I'll align mine precisely this way, right? Okay. So again, if you keep calculating each step, and here starts to become a trap, right? If I keep calculating everything and I'm still stuck in step by step, I have to remember the moves. I have to think about what I'm going to do before I do it, right? I'm going to fall behind in time, right? Because left brain intellectual thinking, remembering the moves step by step, where to put my foot, what did sensei say, and trying to keep up with that stuff is way slower than right brain integrated movement and response. Okay. So the moment you start feeling distance and space, you move ahead of who's thinking. Right. So just again, as a quick suggestion, visualize a familiar space, right? Your dojo, a parking lot, a dining room, whatever, right? And then mentally map out the furniture, the walls, the open exits, right? And then ask, how would I enter this fight from, like if I walked into that room and I'm in a given position and he punches from a certain angle, that's going to change things. My sabaki gata has to change. The naname, the distant, everything has to change. Okay? Most people get stuck here because we're in an open sanitary space called a dojo. There are no obstacles, there are no trip hazards, except our own 2 feet, right? There's no furniture, there's no. Okay? So, again, how would I adapt to that, right? And then just write down one adjustment, right, that you would make to your Tai-Sabaki because of the environment. And then eventually that'll lead your mind to start thinking in those directions, right? So if we go through the same things, right, I'm not going to write down body, mind, zanchin, pain point, or goal. It's just the same. It's the same over here, okay? So from the intermediate or the hot level, right, now body is about efficiency, right? How do I do less to produce the same or more as far as results go, right? It's the angling is more controlled, right? And it's more adaptive. Adaptive. Okay? From a mind perspective, right? Again, analytical, strategic. Analytical, strategic. Okay? So it's not just, well, because that's the way we do it. In our style, that's the, okay? That's how people get killed. Zanchin, right? The awareness. What are we paying attention to, right? So it's expanding to take in more than just his fist that's moving or where you put your foot, that kind of thing, right? It's measuring space and time. Right? Across our lineages. Shinden Fudo Ryu, Togakure Ryu, right? Find the most natural way. The first kata in the Gyoko Ryu, Koku. First kata in the Koto Ryu, Yokuto. Same feeling. Playing in space. Find the most natural way. That requires that we learn the models and we get them right and we understand the how, so we can get to a point where we can do that thing. The point of the technique is to give us the ability mentally and physically, awareness-wise, all that kind of stuff, to be able to, no matter what technique we use, right? End up doing kuno kata and creating our own, right? Doesn't matter. We're doing the same thing. Okay. Let's see. The pain point here, once we start cooking at this, the pain point, the problem, right? The cautionary tale that starts to happen is a different type of belief sets in. So I'm going to put this right here, right? This is a belief that I've got it. I've got it. Sounds like there's work being done in the building, and nobody gave me a heads up. All right, so and then our goal here is that movement serves intent. Right? Movement serves intent. Right? So it doesn't here. Movement serves what? The art system. Okay, copying things. Over here, what's the goal? Right? If I need this guy face down so I can get him into cuffs or restrain him so he'll still be right there when the cops show up, then everything I do has to lead him in that direction. Okay, not follow a script. The script is dictated by need and intent, or if I need to get him out of my house and away from my family, right? Then everything I do needs to steer him to the closest exit. Could be a door, could be a window, whatever. Right? Anything that I do contrary that moves him in a different direction from the endpoint that's needed, I risk myself. I risk the health and safety of other people around me. This fight lasts longer. Yeah, no. Okay. So, got to be careful, right? Again, if you can do it now, you can do it later on or whatever. If there's like an aha moment that kind of pops out for this, leave a comment. Okay. That way I know what's resonating with folks, and or if there's something that again, this is 30,000 foot level kind of thing, right? If there's something that I mentioned that you're not quite getting, well, that could springboard into a whole other Whiteboard Wednesday, so that I can help folks get it. All right, but let's do this, right? Because right, we need to round this thing out, right? So let's take a look at the advanced level here. B, the place where everybody wants to go. Okay, so B means to transcend, right? So when folks go, I don't know if I can, like, walk away from Budo Taijutsu, or I can walk away from this guy's thing. This is not about walking away from things. This is about following in that person's footsteps, following in Hatsumi Sensei's footsteps, whatever. None of the master teachers move the same. None of the master teachers do the same kata from the same lineages the same way. But from a principal concept base, they are. Okay, so it's not the same. Okay, so at this level, what we're looking at is relationship control. Okay, and something that sounds a little woo-woo, non-doing. Okay, so again, now we arrive at the third phase where form, strategy, and awareness merge into one effortless whole. Okay, not looking at the parts. Okay, so from a body perspective, minimum motion, alignment, and timing become reflexive. From a mind perspective or point, we're transitioning to a whole brain integration, an intuitive flow. Okay? From awareness, from the Zanshin kind of thing, right? It's omnidirectional, right? It's anticipatory, right? But not anticipatory like we're guessing, right? Like I'm anticipating something, or I think he's going to throw that, then he throws something else. No, it's based on how he's positioned, where his weight is, right? I know that he can't kick with one leg, but he can kick with another one, but how that kick has to come, or that he can't kick at all, okay? Let's see. And we're beyond reaction, right? This is all, I let him lead the dance. Okay? So here's a quote that matches this perfectly. It's from Hatsumi Sensei. You must throw away your bad habits to get good. So instead of ignoring them, we need to drop what's not working. Can I help you? No, she went that way. I have no idea. Yeah. All right. So, Soke's entire evolution over the years, I said I was going to mention this later, right? As I observed anyway, right? As I kind of paid attention to it, right, was this dropping of the unnecessary. Okay? If you look at old pictures, old video, or anything like that of Hatsumi Sensei moving, really deep, correct kamae and stuff like that, right? But what's everybody want to copy today? Even the beginners, him moving around in Shizen, well, why do I have to do that when he does that? Because he doesn't need that anymore. When he moves around in Shizen, he's doing what that low kamae and that profile position as a guard and all those kind of things, right? All the things that does, he does with timing, distancing, angling, positioning, and whatnot. Space is his shield. Okay, all these things, right? He doesn't need it anymore, but we're not him, right? So again, right, dropping the unnecessary, okay, as he continued to, right? I mean, when I got on board, I considered him a master, right? So he's always been in master position, but now that I look back on things, now I look back on my own transition, holy shit, right? It's a huge thing, but without the process, there's no arrival at the destination we all imagine, right, or that we all dream about, right? So again, from another perspective, right, if you don't let go of thinking about forms, you're never going to understand what I'm showing. That's another Hatsumi Sensei quote, right? But again, people way too early in the training, well, Sensei said, forget the forms, so I'm not going to worry about them. He wasn't talking to you, and he wasn't talking to them. He was talking about upper level here to get here. But again, ego's a crazy son of a bitch, and we need to make sure that we're keeping him, her, it, whatever, under control. Okay? So this is where the law of natural action lives, right? Trust your kamae, right? The body knows before the mind, right? Throw away the form, right? A lot of these lessons, right? Once we understand this, we understand what's behind the words, and we're not just going to parrot the words, right? So if we hear the lesson, throw away the form, right? It's a direction to focus on the principles, not the patterns that point you to the principles, right? And then I've kind of pulled from a bunch of different lessons. I say this all the time to students: let the attacker lead the dance. Okay? What we're doing with that is controlling through connection. We're controlling through relationship. Okay? I'm going to let him show me how to whoop his ass. Okay? He's going to show me how he fights. Okay? So a line in one of my favorite songs, the song does not, the title doesn't pop into my head at the moment, goes something like this: the moment I let go of it was the moment I got more control than I ever thought I could have, that kind of thing, right? Let this lyric just kind of resonate with you for a little bit, right? Because most people think of control by doing something by force, right? So, but in this stage, right, we're not doing Tai-Sabaki, right? You are Tai-Sabaki. Okay? If you're watching this and as soon as it's over, you get up to go get a drink, you don't do walking to the refrigerator and do door opening, right? To grasp door opening, right? Grasp water pitcher. What, you don't do that. You just walk. You don't even think about the walking. The whole time you're going, right? It's just, it might be on, shit, I've got a certain amount of time before my next appointment or before the next, before that commercial runs out, whatever, right? And so, right, I'm thinking about that because all this other stuff is just natural. That's what it means to transcend. It's transcending the vehicle. You don't need that anymore, right? You don't need the lessons. You don't need to hold on to those things anymore because you can already do it. To hold on to them, for Hatsumi Sensei to do the forms would have stunted his continued growth. Well, I don't want to stunt my growth. So why don't I just move like him? Because for him, it would be backsliding. For us, it would be trying to jump over things we don't want to do because we want to do that. Well, you can't do that without going through this. Right? We need to understand that, one, it's difficult, and two, it's not about the forms, it's about the process. Okay? So Again, uh, you're the Tai-Sabaki, right? You no longer think the step, right? You feel the relationship and the movement flows through you, right? So you step in the most advantageous position, right? Without giving up the benefits of Kamae, right? You know whether he can reach you or not. You know whether you're in range or not. And as soon as you know that, it dictates your next movement, right? The Kamae will self-adjust based on my feeling of whether I'm in range for a jab or his next thing, or whether he has to step, whether I have a moment. Okay? But as long as left brain's leading the thing, I'm gonna get caught. Okay. Oh, let's see, what else do I have for you here? One of our lineage elders stated, the ninja's body is to nurture one's mind and to train the body to endure to the end. One who can do this is a true ninja. That was Takuma Sensei. Okay. So again, as a suggestion, if you're aiming for this level, or you're getting close, or you're maybe, I don't know, you could be bouncing around in here, but it's one of these things going on, right? Okay. In solo practice this week, right? I don't want to ever hear from students that I can't practice, I can't train because I don't have a partner. Partner training equals at best 25% of total work in our training. People confuse homebrew training or seminar training with that's the way it's done. Okay. So in solo training, solo practice this week, pick a simple technique that you know well. Slow it down until you can feel if you're thinking each movement. Right? And then stop thinking. Let the movement occur. If you need to think about the movement, then you don't know the technique. Right? You know it step by step, but you don't. It's not in here. Okay, and you need to observe the difference, because every time the brain steps in, left brain steps in to tell you what to do next, you're not focusing on him. No matter how fast you do it, you create a cognitive gap that can be exploited, and you slow yourself down because the left brain has to do more things to get the system to trigger that step or that arm movement or whatever. Okay? You will not be as fast as the guy on the street who just fights intuitively, just throws shit around. Okay? It's never going to happen. Okay? But don't take my word for it. Try it out. Okay. All right. So filling in the blanks here. At this point, the body is subtle, natural, and invisible. Subtle. There's that art of invisibility. Natural and invisible. No, you don't become translucent. No, you don't become see-through. Okay? You don't have any tells. There's no twitch response. There's no anticipatory kind of things. There's no guesswork. There's no hesitation. You're able to move. Okay? The mind is integrated and intuitive. Integrated and intuitive. Intuition is just the right brain processing many more things and many more layers at the same time, where left brain needs to go step 1, step 2, step 3, right? Right brain is processing more things at the same time. Left brain doesn't know most of those things, and so it feels intuitive. It feels like I knew, but I don't know how I knew. Yeah, well, I knew, right brain. I don't know how I knew. That's left brain trying to figure out what it's like when you're just doing normal integrative stuff. Okay. Let's see. Zanshin, right? Our awareness is now omnidirectional. Right? Omnidirectional, all coming from all directions. Omnidirectional, and again, it's anticipatory. But again, not guessing. Anticipatory, right? Okay. So when I say omnidirectional, I mean that we're firing on all cylinders, right? Tactile sense, vision, auditory. Right? When somebody moves, when somebody comes in from this side, you're dealing with this guy here, right? This body blocks or muffles or deflects sounds from the other side of it. It's a shield. My sense of hearing on this side, that's going to change. Because there were just kids yelling across the street, and I can still hear them, except that, well, they're not screaming more quietly, right? So, but again, if left brain has to think about that, but we're going to have to go through training, paying attention to it, so that means something. Okay? Let's see, our pain point here. Okay, the pain point here is not. It's not what it is here, right? This is a cage where it stifles progress, right? We just get really good at form, right? Here, it's believing that I got it. Okay, Hasumi Sensei has always said, the moment you think you've got it, you don't, because you just cut your progress right there. Okay, so I've got what? I've got things to a certain degree, right? Everything's a cage. This cage is actually responsive to other people. Okay, the pain point right here is condemnation, right, from others. Okay, you're not doing it right, You're not doing it the official way, right? That's not the way they do it in Japan, all that kind of stuff, right? But the reality here is that you've left the model. It has become personal, right? You own the art without being a clone of everybody else doing the art. Okay? So the pain point here is other people's opinions or our own belief about or attachment to, loyalty to, whatever, right? See, I can't progress to this level because that looks completely different. And what will people say? Or they'll think that I left the Bujinkan, or they'll think, okay, so I'm going to cut my path to mastery short and let other people dictate what mastery should look like, but they're not there. No, I'll trust Sensei and what he said in classes and what he has written out in books and all that kind of stuff. I'll trust that. Okay? The goal, it's going to sound a little woo. The goal is to move the moment, not the body. I know most of you guys probably can't read this. I'm in the process of working up a cheat sheet checklist. It won't have these things on it. It'll be things that in each level, once you have it, right, and you can fulfill a statement. I am capable of. I can do this 80% of the time at 80% full speed, no errors. Check. Okay, those kind of things. So I'm working up a worksheet. It'll end up in the description area. For those of you who are on the mailing list for Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday, it'll be sent out. Right? It'll just go out. So if you caught it, there it'll be. Actually, what we're probably going to end up doing to weed out the people that just want to collect free shit, but don't want to have to do a whole lot of extra for it, is we'll probably just put it behind another one of those little things where you're just going to put in your email address and whatnot. And I know probably 10% of those people are either going to put in a fictitious email address, in which case the system's going to try to send them the thing to something that doesn't exist, or they'll sign up for it, and then as soon as they get it, they'll unsubscribe because, well, they don't want any other shit from me. Okay, so you want a lesson, but if the teacher tries to give you more lessons, well, you don't want that. Sounds like panhandling to me, right? Yeah, I'll take your change, but your help in getting a job or whatever. Yeah, no, I don't want any of that. All right. So anyway, all right. All right. So let's wrap this up here quickly and talk about integration and life application. Told you it was going somewhere. All right. So please remember, what we train in the dojo reflects what we live outside. Okay. Shu, form, right, is reacting under pressure. Okay. It's being reactive. Right. He says shit, I say shit. He does certain things. I either go into escape mode or I do shit to him or whatever, right? Okay. At the hot level, okay, we're positioning and choosing our response. We think about consequences. We think about if I say this, it could lead to this, right? Or whatever. It's no more. It's no longer childish, right? It's more strategic, right? And then B, right? It's about the relationship, flow, presence, unforced action, that kind of thing. So I keep that strategic cause and effect thing going, right? If I say this, I could win this fight, but I could wreck this relationship because it'll never be the same again after this. Well, but they forgave me. Yeah, forgiveness is not forgetfulness. I can forget. I've forgiven a lot of people, but I'll never forget the shit that they did. And so I'm more cautionary when they try to offer things. Okay, so this is no longer. This isn't. What's my one peer in Belgium on the t-shirts, either currently or I know it used to be, right? It said, "Playtime is over, boys and girls. It's time to go to school." Okay, so each stage aligns to how you handle stress, how you handle conflict, how you handle leadership, right, and personal mastery in our own lives. Okay, Tai-Sabaki isn't just how we move our body; it's how we evolve as warriors. Right? At first, we manage our body, and then we manage our space, and then we manage the moment itself. Okay? So, again, the evolution of Tai-Sabaki is really the evolution of awareness. Okay? At first, again, we manage our body, then we manage space. Ultimately, we manage relationships and reality, right? What's going on. Okay? So, true mastery isn't about abandoning the system. When I talk about evolving, right? Where does the Bujinkan go next? What's the next stage, right? Battlefields were different then than they are now. Okay, laws were different then in what you were able to do than they are now. Okay, it's not about abandoning the system. Okay, but outgrowing the need to cling to it. Right. This is about identity. This is about reality. This is about clarity. This is about being able to produce the results that I stepped on the path to produce, but not artificially. Right? The form is the chrysalis, right? It's the cocoon, right? That little freaking caterpillar weaves this thing, right? But people want to hold on to the chrysalis. Okay? It doesn't become a butterfly if it doesn't shed the chrysalis. Right? It can turn into what could be a butterfly in there. It could get stifled, right? But if it can't get out of there or external influences fuck around with that cocoon, that wannabe butterfly or that thing that could be, right? It has all the, like it changed, right? Could be, but it's never going to be. It's going to die in that cocoon, right? So, final quote from Hatsumi Sensei. Right? I know everybody's heard this one. The first priority to the ninja is to win without fighting. Right? In the very upper levels of our training, his instruction was stop responding to things as though you're in a fight. Okay? He can throw all kinds of things, but if I don't even think that I'm in a fight, the level of freedom that I have in controlling him is just completely different, right? A level before that is to drop the notions of winning and losing, because that's what will cause you to lose. But beyond that is, doesn't matter if he's throwing shit at me or not, right? I'm not in a self-defense situation. I'm not in a fight, okay? If there's a problem, there's something that needs to be quelled. It's not about me anymore. It's about the moment, okay? So reflect, right? The little reflect thing here, right? In your life, where do you still force the action, right? Not just in training, okay? Training gets us to a whole different level, right? Where do you still force the action? Where could you trust the process more and let the movement happen through you, Right? We have these things in the Gyokuri, right? One, two. You guys know these things, right? A lot of you do. Okay. They're not just things. They're not just, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. Oh, we have this and we have that. Okay. We don't just do that before an attack. All these things get integrated and we live that way. Okay. So again, on Friday, right? During our little master class there, right? We will be exploring Ashi-Sabaki, the roll of the legs. This evolution of how does it start? How does it change, right? Again, footwork as the hidden architecture of strategy, right? So if you can feel the evolution in your step, or everything changes, right? So again, hopefully you sign up for it. If not, no harm, no foul, right? Hopefully I'll see you, right? Again, thanks to everybody who's like our loyal viewers and all that kind of stuff. It wouldn't be for you. Well, I'd still be doing this stuff no matter how many people showed up because I'm a teacher. Teachers teach. Right? So, but your continued dedication really kind of helps, lets me know that this is valuable to people. Okay. So just to kind of round this out, today we trace the path from form to strategy to intuitive mastery. Right. So I'm going to leave it at this. I encourage each and every one of you, right, to set aside one time this week, just a brief moment, right, for mental movement. Visualize, feel, let go, those kind of things, right? Tai-Sabaki isn't just about where you put your feet, okay? It's about how you see, how you decide, and how you act when everything else is in motion. If you need to stop because you're overwhelmed, well, then it's not the same, okay? So let the art live through you, okay? Don't do it to you, okay? Hopefully I'll see you Friday. If not, I'll see you next week. Have a good week.